Alright, this is my review of the DeWalt DCS 370 cordless bandsaw. It's a DeWalt product that came out, I think, at some point in the last year and a half or two. It's 18 volt, has a 2-inch cutting capacity bandsaw. It's not one of the more heavily advertised DeWalt cordless tools. It tends to only come from specialized places because it's kind of a special purpose thing. But in talking about in my other videos about using 18 volt tool systems to go with your solar equipment, the reason is the two brands that have the best 12 volt chargers that will charge 18 volt tools is DeWalt and Ryobi. So these are what I use. And I have almost every relevant 18 volt DeWalt tool a guy would need for, a lot of general handyman stuff and even the specialized tools. But would I say they make the very best cordless bandsaw? No. When I really shopped these and checked specifications and tried out some tools, I found that the Milwaukee is definitely the better tool. The problem is that the Milwaukee uses a unique battery. And again, one of the big problems with these companies is they've never gone out of their way to make those batteries compatible with each other. So unless you're married to the entire tool system, don't buy the Milwaukee. But they have a really good one, but it uses their proprietary battery. The DeWalt tool, though, I've been finding is really good, really amazing, nice and strong, makes cuts quickly. It's an asymmetrical tool, meaning that the right side and left side are very different from each other. Although I'm finding that for left-hand use, it's just fine. A lot of this metal cutting ends up being a two-way operation. What I'd like to see in the future, and I'll probably fabricate one, is some sort of a little stand-up device, kind of like those things that you can bolt a handheld drill into to makes it into a little drill press. You could take one of these, bolt it into something, and make it into a little bandsaw. Just realize you don't have a lot of clearance in here. Okay, that's only about a 2-inch clearance. So let's say I got to brace this with my foot here, and I want to nip the end off of this. And kind of make sure you're holding it straight, okay? This is 1x2 steel, fairly thin walled stock. It'll take a couple seconds for the blade to get started. The little guide holds that relatively steady and blammo. Alright, so what happened on that is it was getting started on a long cut, went through the thin part real fast, and then had another long cut. If I were hitting that at an angle, it would have gone a lot faster. The other thing is this battery's down a little bit. There's a little safety device here, so you can't just pull the trigger and turn on the saw. You gotta flip this down with your thumb. Basically a thumb safety. It's ambidextrous. Realize you gotta have side clearance on this. But again, this is an asymmetrical tool. So you can kind of look at how the angles on this work. If I'm trying to make a cut down here, as long as it's less than that 2 inches, I can still clear it. Okay, so I can cut square cuts on up to 4x4. I'm sorry, 2x2 steel, which is plenty strong. I built this trailer out of 1x2 and 2x2 steel. I can make all of the cuts involved in all of these pieces, including the frame, with that saw, cordless. The only steel that I wouldn't have made with that would have been the cuts on this expanded metal grate. But that stuff, there's other ways to cut it. I think I used a Sawzall on all of that. But the thing is, to get a good, even cut, I mean, you can look at how even this cut is, and a square cut. You saw me make that cut. I didn't use any special guide apart from what's already built onto this saw, okay? And if we stand this up, we can see how it's like a bandsaw. I didn't use any of the special guide to make that cut. And I've been using this saw all afternoon, and the battery still got life in it, okay? It doesn't seem to use a lot of power. The Sawzalls will go through batteries. The bandsaw, for some reason, the batteries last a lot longer. I think it's because the motor isn't driving any other mechanism. It's basically a direct drive wheel. Basically, a direct drive wheel here. That's just an idler wheel. Okay, direct drive wheel here. Little bearings that will keep the blade in place. It's a 32.25-inch blade. They are proprietary to the DeWalt. So if you're out in the middle of nowhere and don't have a package of these blades, you're fucked. Okay, if you're in a major metropolitan area, you'll find 1 or 2 stores that carry that particular type of blade. Okay, it's not universal. So you really got to get those from DeWalt. I haven't found anybody else that's going to regularly have them. It's mainly because handheld bandsaws is such a rare tool, and when you do find them, they're usually a little bit bigger. The other thing is you got to watch when you set this thing down that you don't set it on a blade, although it has these little guards here. It's got this little hanger thing, which is kind of neat. You know, you can hang it on stuff. I do that when I kind of organize stuff a little bit, just to keep it up off the ground. You can hang it. That's kind of cool. But that's the DeWalt bandsaw, and it's a DC 370 or DCS 370 DeWalt 18-volt cordless bandsaw. It's part of my off-grid tool set. And would I recommend buying these? Yeah, especially if you're married to the DeWalt tools. Would I recommend this as a standalone to be your only cordless tool? Hell no. This is something you get when you are already married to the DeWalt tool system. You're already using them. You want a cordless bandsaw because you want to be able to cut linear stock steel quickly, evenly, with good square cuts. And when you're working on a fabrication project like I am, where I'm working on a roof rack for this trailer, solar panel array, you can see some uneven stuff up there. It's because I wasn't even stopping to measure stuff. Okay, I just slap it together. It's gonna hold junk up on that roof rack. There's no need to have high levels of precision, but if I were trying to do all those cuts on all that square tube, and there's a lot of it up here, okay, if I were trying to do all these cuts and all this square tube with a Sawzall, one, it would have eaten through a lot of batteries. It would have taken forever. I did one cut over on that corner with a Sawzall. You can see how uneven that was. Using the portable bandsaw, I'm not going to say I can fabricate this in no time, but it sure takes a lot less time. And it's just a matter of making all these cuts, especially this linear material here, very cost effective. You get this linear material for about 16 bucks for a 20-foot piece. I take it down into all these spacer holders. This is eventually going to be a walk-on area. I've got this whole solar panel rack was built. Basically all the cuts using that one saw, and then a cheap Harbor Freight welder to make the welds. No matter how good or bad you are of a welder, using those Harbor Freight welders and a one of the solar powered auto darkening helmets, even if you end up with a little slop in a weld, it just means you're going to do a little more grinding time. That's all. But here I got a little creative with some angles. This thing, because of the welding, came off a little bit unsquare. I think it was just because something changed when it was cooling. But again, it just, even at the amateur level, it's just a matter of doing a little more grinding to smooth out the welds. And if you look at so-called professionally done welding on a lot of furniture, roof racks, stuff like that, a lot of guys aren't going through the trouble to grind these little nubbins off, and you get a lot of them when you use a flux core welder. But if you do go through the trouble of grinding it off, then that means something. It's easier to put your equipment on a roof rack like this without it scraping and scratching and screwing your stuff up. And that's all going to get painted in kind of a chrome to match the trailer. Not high precision stuff, but it's going to work just fine. But that little DeWalt cordless bandsaw means that a lot of your backyard, garage, driveway projects can go quickly and smoothly when you're able to deal with linear stock. Definitely, for sure. And you know, I got to congratulate DeWalt for coming out with a really good tool when he did this. I've been wanting one for a long time. I've been making some suggestions for it early on. They finally came out with one, and it's definitely worth buying if you're already using the DeWalt tool system.